Wanting to enrich the quality of life for residents in elderly homes, Abarami created a website to provide access to art therapy programs. She explained the importance of these activities and how they can stave off the effects of stagnancy and mental illnesses, improve fine motor control, and counter illnesses like Parkinson's. She recruited students to help her create video tutorials and activity worksheets for the website, which residents and staff members can continue to use as a resource for performing art therapy. When Savannah noticed the stage at her community grove was in poor condition and potentially dangerous, she decided to repair it. She replaced old boards, added new roofing, sealed the exterior, and planted trees. Additionally, she led a team who helped her add new flower beds, making the area even more appealing to her community. The improved area has been used for community programming and a local music festival. After observing that many children were struggling during the pandemic, Ariella focused her Gold Award project on designing a mentoring program for 3rd to 5th graders at 2 local elementary schools in her community. She paired elementary school kids with high school students who met virtually throughout the school year. Mentors assisted with homework, played games, and were an additional support person the young children could count on. After seeing her great-grandfather struggle in a nursing home, Olivia focused her project on encouraging engagement and creativity among elderly residents at a local assisted living facility. She taught an arts and craft class where she planned activities and helped residents make crafts while encouraging others to join in and engage with one another. She provided samples of each craft, supplies, and instruction booklets so residents could continue making crafts. Wanting to end hunger in her community, Caitlin designed and built a micro food pantry at her church, naming it the BELC Blessing Box. This micro food pantry is open 24/7, making food easily accessible to those who need it. She created informational flyers to spread awareness on how to care for the pantry and encourage donations to keep it stocked.
I'm Erica Bruner. For my Gold Award, I wanted to help children in my community to become the best versions of themselves. So I created a campaign centered on sharing. I wrote a book titled Buddy Learns to Share, which I presented and read at a local elementary school. I also hosted a book drive, encouraging children to donate their unused books to those in need.
After assisting at a local preschool, I noticed there was a lack of knowledge in art and music for the young children. To better support education in these areas from a young age, I created a curriculum including 9 different lesson plans and coordinating activities to engage the children.
Wanting to increase the interest of reading in children, Addison collected books from her community members and placed them in local laundromats. Since laundromats are common places for kids to wait, she hoped the available books would encourage them to read. As an additional resource, she created a YouTube channel and added recordings of various children's books.
Knowing that with knowledge comes power and options, I focused on educating peers and creating an online platform about type 1 diabetes and other health issues that relate to teenagers. As I personally dealt with missed signs and symptoms, I wanted to promote self-advocacy for other youth.
To promote sustainability in fashion, I hosted virtual basic sewing classes through community libraries to reduce the amount of clothes that were thrown away due to minor issues. From hemming and fixing holes to adding pockets to pieces, my classes taught a skill set to community members that will have a positive impact on the environment.
I noticed the stress caused by the global pandemic, and I wanted to give back to the educators who had given so much to me. I designed a tranquil space outside of my high school where educators and staff could go to decompress. I provided information on breathing exercises and created inspirational messages for the space, prompting staff members to write and share their own inspirational messages with others.
To address the lack of recycling in my community, I created and distributed materials to educate others about the importance of recycling and composting to reduce solid municipal waste. I presented on those topics during a community event held at my local library. I then hosted a recycling event where residents could drop off their glass recyclables. Roughly 1 ton of glass was recycled at the event, which reduces about 300 pounds of CO2 in the atmosphere.
Sadie observed her school band decreasing in size over the years and wanted to do something to increase participation. To encourage students to join, she created a video to help give insight into unique opportunities members of the band have. She also included information on specific band instruments.
When Elizabeth noticed the grave markers belonging to children at her church's cemetery were in poor shape, she stepped up to help. To honor and commemorate the children who had passed away, she cleaned and repaired the stones. Additionally, she developed an online educational resource focused on child mortality and the history of vaccines.
Living through a pandemic inspired me to write a book with compilations of detailed stories and experiences. I interviewed a wide variety of people and recorded their viewpoints on how they were affected by COVID-19. My book will serve as a resource for future readers to learn about the pandemic and for present readers to feel comforted in relating to the similar experiences of others.
To support senior citizens in my community, I held 2 presentations on cybersecurity and computer literacy. I organized and led a team of volunteers to facilitate virtual workshop activities and worked one-on-one with senior citizens to increase their knowledge and comfort level with digital and online experiences.
Rebecca promoted environmental awareness by building an observation deck for the wetlands at Mule Run Farm. The deck overlooks the wetlands and will be implemented in educational classes on wetland conservation and nature preservation.
My passion for art inspired me to create Helping Hands, a week-long art camp I facilitated for elementary school students to express their creativity. Wanting to include an element of community service, I led a project where campers decorated bags for Meals on Wheels, and I donated some of the other art projects to nursing homes in my community.
Wanting to address the negative stereotypes that people with autism often face, Caitlin wrote and illustrated a children's book about autism. She donated 150 copies of her book to local elementary schools to educate students about the effects of harmful stereotypes and to inform teachers on ways to prevent discrimination in their classroom. When Gabriella noticed that membership in her church's youth group was declining, she created promotional resources to increase awareness in her community. By coordinating with other nearby churches, she was able to sustain the group and its positive influence on local youth.
I raised awareness about suicide and mental health by educating students at my high school, emphasizing the fact that exercise can improve mental health. I also hosted a 5K zombie run, encouraging participation in exercise-related activities. At the event, myself and other individuals spoke about the topic of suicide and how to recognize warning signs.
Sophia's project focused on communication with children who are diagnosed with pediatric cancer. She led a team that created resource pamphlets full of information about pediatric cancer. The pamphlets were handed out during a presentation she gave to students and staff members at her school. Having a passion for baking and volunteering inspired Sasha to create a baking group at school. She encouraged classmates to join, and after baking together, the group donated baked goods to local charities. Her project was adopted as a permanent initiative by her high school.
I felt that my library's resources were not being fully utilized, so I created a presentation to promote the available programs and activities there. The presentation is available on the library's website, and it serves as a virtual walkthrough highlighting areas such as the Teen Reading Lounge and the local history section.
To introduce others to the art of crocheting, I created and implemented a crochet club at my high school. Through my leadership efforts, I recruited members and led club meetings, teaching the basics of crocheting. I also created a manual for club members to use as a resource to continue the club in the future.
Lauren addressed the significant pain felt by mothers and families when they lose a baby. She held open discussions on the topic and created packages for grieving families. The packages included handmade white gowns, diapers, white hats, and sympathy cards, carefully wrapped and packaged for hand delivery. She delivered approximately 65 packages to McGee's Women's Hospital.
My project aimed to help teenagers build self-esteem and decrease stress. I shared mindfulness techniques, meditation and deep breathing exercises, and positive coping mechanisms. I also designed a website and created an Instagram account to reach even more teens who are struggling.
I implemented a clothing donation closet in the Pathfinder School, a local school for disabled students. I promoted this initiative and collected donated clothing items from community members, stocking and organizing the items in the closet. The school will continue to utilize the clothing closet and provide the donated items to disabled students.
Sydney transformed the activity space at a local Boys and Girls Club of America. She revamped the area by setting up a reading tent and supplying books, games, and crafts. She researched and made educational videos on the issue of pollution. She also provided the Boys and Girls Club access to the videos and ideas on how to make crafts using recycled bottle caps. She collected bottle caps and made up craft bags for the children at the organization. Nova's project aimed to spread awareness for the Pets for Vets Veterans program available through a local animal shelter, Animal Friends. She presented the program and its benefits to local veterans organizations, and a recording of her presentation was distributed for future promotional efforts. She also created social media pages on Twitter and Facebook, which were updated regularly with information about the program so veterans would have easy access to the information they needed.
To encourage middle school students to pursue a career in creative writing, I ran an 8-week writing workshop and a 3-week short story workshop. I organized an array of interviews with self-published authors and teen writers and designed flyers and lesson plans.
Gabriella supported teenagers in high-risk, underserved communities by providing them with resources. She created a clothing donation closet that supplied teens with proper clothing for job interviews, along with pamphlets highlighting topics such as personal hygiene and tips for success. Seeing a loved one struggle with dementia inspired Sophie to create memory books for adults with cognitive impairments. She worked with families to tailor memory books to the specific person, highlighting past events in their lives, music and games they enjoyed, and messages from their loved ones. She left instructions and a template with local nursing homes to continue her efforts. To educate her community on proper animal care, Hannah shared tips and tricks with local dog owners about how to keep dogs physically and mentally healthy. To reinforce her message, she thoughtfully made dog toys to challenge and entertain the dogs while also creating a positive atmosphere. Carly saw an opportunity to clean and repaint the concession stand at her local park's baseball field. Her love of art sparked her to organize a community event where members of the Summerhill baseball team painted a handprint mural on the side of the concession stands. Her event inspired excitement about art, plus a stronger sense of community among her team members.
As a way to introduce music education to young children, I built pipe organs from PVC pipes and donated them to 3 local preschools. I created music booklets with popular nursery rhymes that correspond with the pipe organs, which will be implemented into the curriculum. I also created a YouTube video demonstrating how to make pipe organs.
With the help of her community, Abigail refreshed structures at her local park by organizing a community day to paint the playground, basketball hoop, and 4 dugouts. Her community plans to continue hosting the spring cleanup every year.
I address the lack of female representation in history by creating educational videos and lesson plans for students at a local elementary school. I worked with a teacher to highlight impactful women in history based on the time period the students were studying. I led discussions which encouraged students to draw parallels between the past and the present, while introducing them to strong female role models.
Hoping to inspire children to pursue a career in STEM, I ran a chemistry camp at a local nature center and provided hands-on learning for children ages 6 to 8. I also created videos showing children different applications of chemistry through experiments.
Inspired by my own adoption journey, I spread awareness of the need for foster and adoptive parents. I spoke at 3 local churches and broadcasted the presentation on Facebook Live to reach people beyond my community. I also organized an event where I made blankets with the other volunteers and donated them to an adoption agency and 2 county children and youth agencies.
Michelle created a Facebook group to provide support to individuals suffering from celiac disease and gluten sensitivities. She shared informational links in her group and moderated discussions, encouraging others to share their experiences living with celiac disease. Julie introduced Girl Scouts to a new STEM experience by encouraging girls to be engineers and build their own racetracks out of recycled materials. She shared her knowledge and gave them an opportunity to build their own derby car to race at her Race Like a Girl Derby event she hosted.
I introduced upper elementary and middle school students to the performing arts by coordinating a 4-day musical theater workshop. I led a team of volunteers to successfully run the workshop, where I introduced students to singing, dancing, and acting techniques.
Sophia encouraged youth participation in politics by providing an outlet for teens to share their political opinions and discuss current events. She designed a website allowing visitors to submit blog posts and sign up for debates. She also presented to clubs at her school and made infographics about the importance of voting. To increase inclusivity at her school, Madeline created a Best Buddies chapter, which is a club focused on fostering friendships between students with and without disabilities. As the chapter president, she led a team to recruit members, pair students together, and host monthly chapter meetings, providing a space where students could build friendships.
To educate my community on women's rights and equality in the workforce, I created 3 different corresponding displays for local businesses. I highlighted the history of women in technology at a technology school, the history of women in theater at a local theater, and the history of Girl Scouts at Girl Scout Camp Sky Meadow.
Noticing a lack of understanding about type 1 diabetes, Mira educated middle school students about the disease, its symptoms, and some of the struggles diabetics face. She emphasized the importance of treating everyone with respect and encouraged students to be empathetic towards people with disabilities. Believing her community could benefit from active teaching of sign language, Alyssa taught students at a local elementary school the basics of sign language and etiquette. She also created a YouTube channel as a resource to show useful phrases in sign language, and she placed signs in public places with sign language phrases pertaining to the area. Abigail created an educational experience to introduce others to holiday traditions from around the world. To promote a greater understanding of these customs and traditions, she created YouTube videos and activities, which she presented to local elementary and middle school students.
After a new community biking and hiking trail was created in her community, Eva noticed it was not being heavily utilized. She brought awareness to the resource by creating and installing signage and building and placing planters to mark the trail.
To address the need for volunteer firefighters, especially females, Adrienne hosted an event at a local fire station. She educated attendees about fire safety, promoted the benefits of working as a firefighter, and recruited new members at her event. Ava aimed to increase blood donations by creating an informational video about the importance of donating blood and its benefits, which she shared through social media and with her high school. She also hosted a blood drive at her school along with a virtual event, encouraging community members to participate. Having been diagnosed with leukemia during middle school, Sophia was inspired to help other children like her through her project. Sophia began prior to the pandemic to provide reusable and washable face masks for immunocompromised children and teenagers in the oncology unit at Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh. To encourage use, she designed the masks with fun, kid-friendly patterns and styles. She also created a website to share her mask making template and educate the children, their families, and others in the community on the importance of wearing masks. Altogether, Sophia created over 1,500 masks.
Looking to pursue a career in nursing, I aim to address the needs of residents at an assisted living facility by improving the available activities and creating a sense of home. I built flower planters and used chalk paint so residents could write, draw, and personalize their own while bringing color to their outside areas. I also built a portable puzzle box on wheels with a surface to assemble the puzzles and a removable lid so puzzles can be stored inside. Both projects were made wheelchair accessible and easily available regardless of the disability or functional ability of the residents.
Sarah created a book club for people of all abilities, allowing readers of any level to enjoy the experience. As someone who has Down syndrome and a love of reading, Sarah focused on creating a full curriculum that could be facilitated by others and used it to host her own meetings. Sarah's passion for working with children inspired her to educate local preschoolers on the importance of healthy eating and growing their own food. She developed lesson plans and built a raised garden bed at the preschool, which will continue to be utilized in the future. To mitigate the effects of the pandemic on her school community, Michaela put together COVID-19 care packages for faculty members, including educational pamphlets on health and safety in the classroom. She also led a team to make masks, providing them to the faculty. Seeing a lack of financial education in her area, Shrija organized a series of workshops to teach various groups of students the basics of money and personal finances. To make all of her lesson plans and activities easily accessible, she created a website with a featured blog where she discussed ways to make, track, and save money. Brianna created a campaign to encourage reading, improve accessibility to resources in her community, and support strong comprehensive reading skills. She recorded videos of senior citizens reading children's books that were then shared with a local elementary school to support at-home learning. Additionally, Brianna constructed, installed, and collected books for a network of free lending libraries in her community. With the intention to encourage outdoor activity in her community and to support a local resource, Jenna constructed a Gaga pit for her community youth camp. Once the Gaga pit was completed, she hosted an innovative virtual tournament for children and teenagers.